I know y'all heard that old saying, no good deed goes unpunished. And that's sort of how I felt when I've been trying to get my uncle's affairs together. As I thought I was doing the right thing, seemed like I found more hurdles to have to jump over than help. And I'll talk about that today in this edition of Old Fools Talking Old School. But anyway, but yeah, man, I tell you, I have to laugh at the things we go through with our state and federal agency, the bureaucracy, as I've been having to deal with my uncle, trying to take care of his affairs. I was, he's got this 2017 Lexus RX 350 that he had that he bought in Ohio. He paid for me and him to fly up there to bring it back home. Didn't really need it. He already had a really nice Acura SUV. He already had that, but he saw this car online, and he had an accident in the car that was really his wife's, which was a Nissan Maxima. He had a wreck in it, and looking back, another sign that things were starting to happen. It just didn't sort of put the pieces together way back then. Well, not way back then. This has only been about 3-4 years ago now. But
right.
So anyway, he had, he was looking at this Lexus, and he said, "Mickey, I saw this really nice Lexus in Ohio, and they got a nice price on it. But I don't need that car. I don't need that car." I said, "Well, it's sort of up to you." And next day he called me and said, "Mickey, I want that car. I'm gonna fly us up to Ohio and get it." I'm like, "Okay. I'll go up there with you." So went and got the car, brought it back. And of course, when he got to the point to where he just, we just didn't want him driving anymore, and we put him in an assisted living home. I brought the car to the house, and, I usually take him back and forth to his appointments, and it's sort of like that extra car we got.
Right.
Matter of fact, at one point, Kathy had to put her car in the shop, and, she drove it. But when it came that snow back in February, it sort of dawned on me. I said, if I would be driving the car and had an accident, and I showed him the paperwork, everything is still in his name. The registration's in his name, the title's in his name, the insurance is in his name. I said, I probably need to get my name put on that stuff just in case something like that happens. I can say, yeah, this is me, this is the insurance, this is the registration, whole 9 yards. So I went down to the county clerk's office and said, I want to see about getting this car. I'm a power of attorney for my uncle. My name put on the registration and title, just so that I can show that I'm authorized to, drive the car and on. So the young lady, she's a sister, said, "Yeah, no problem." So I said, "What do I need to do that?" She said, "Well, you just need to sign the back of the title as this power of attorney, saying that basically you're all making this transaction kind of thing." And she said, "But you have to have somebody sign for you as your power of attorney." And I'm like, "What now?" She said, "Well, you can't sign as his power of attorney and then sign as yourself too," which, in a way sort of made sense. I said, yeah, it's almost like I'm signing for both parties, which somebody could look at that and say, well, you basically gave the car to yourself, kind of thing. So I said, no problem. So I brought all the paperwork home, and I said, my wife's my power of attorney anyway. I'll just have her sign for me. She said, yeah, that's fine. She can sign for you as your power of attorney. So I went ahead and brought the paperwork to the house, and Marion signed for me. And I take it back up to the clerk's office and hand it in to him. She said, "Okay, we're good to go. Let's go ahead and put you in the system." And she took the title back to a little back office and came back. She said, "Well, Mr. Gwynn, we got a problem." I'm like, "Well, what kind of problem?" She said, "You wrote down the mileage on the vehicle today, right?" I said, "Yeah, I wrote it down right before I came into the office." She said, "Well, the mileage you have written on the title, on the back of the title, is less than the mileage that's on the front of the title that says it had when the car was originally bought." And I'm like, "What?" She said, "Yeah, you're saying that the car has less miles now on it now than it did when he bought the car." And I'm looking at the number, and I'm saying to myself, you just can't arbitrarily walk in to get a title and say, "Oh yeah, it's got X amount of money. Miles. You got to prove it." She said, "I don't know what's happened." So she went to got her supervisor and 2 or 3 other ladies came up there and was looking at it. And one of the ladies said, I see what happens. And she said, what? She said, look at the original price of the car on the sales, because I had the invoice from when he bought it. He said, look at the original price on the invoice and look at the miles, exact same number. She said, the people in Ohio who got the title for you, they put the price of the car, sale price of the car, where the mileage goes. And we've got to get that corrected in order for you to be able to put your name on the title and all. So I said, well, how do we do that? So she said, well, there's an odometer discrepancy form that you have to fill out. And well, they have to fill out, the dealership, saying, yeah, we made a mistake. The miles that should have been on the title should have been, it was like 16,000. And that this new title should reflect that. So I said, okay, no problem. So I called the dealership up, explained what had happened. They said, yeah, we apologize. Our person made a mistake when they sent it over to the clerk's office here in Ohio. We'll get that form filled out for you and get it back to you. So they did. They filled it out, put what the original miles were when they sold the car, and sent it back to me. So got the form back, and I have to sign that too as a power of attorney. So I'm signing the bottom of the form as power of attorney. I just happened to read the fine print, as they say, and it says at the bottom of that form, this form cannot be signed by power of attorney. So I called the clerk's office back up, and I asked him to speak to the lady that I'd been working with. And I said, did you realize that the form you gave me for this odometer discrepancy says it can't be signed by power of attorney? And she said, really? I said, yeah, you don't? I said, you don't realize that's what's on one of your forms? She said, no, let me go get one. So I said, yeah, go get one of your forms and look at the bottom of that form. She said, we really don't pay a whole lot of attention to them. They come from the state. I didn't know that was on there. I said, well, yeah, it says it can't be signed by a power of attorney. So what do I do now? And she said, well, just bring all the paperwork in, sign it, and we're going to send it down to the state and see what they do. She said, but I can tell you, they may look at that and say, no, he can't sign that form. And they may say, we're not going to put his name on the title. So we'll give it a shot. So I said, okay. So went back up, brought all the paperwork. I guess it's the second time I'd been in the office at this point. And she sent it off. So about a week and a half later, I get a letter from the State Department of Safety. So I said, this is from people that does a title. I open it up, and lo and behold, there's a new title in there with my name on it and my uncle's name on it. I said, all right. So they obviously don't pay attention to that form either, because they accepted it. So, and then I look over, I said, let me check the mile. I look up at the mileage, and I'm like, where did they get that number from? It ain't the 16,000 that was on there, the form when he bought the car. I'm like, where did that number come from? I looked at the sales receipt that I had originally. I have no idea where this number came from for mileage. So I called back.
We just gonna get this through.
Yeah,
we ain't nothing.
So I called back down to the clerk office, and I said, look, you ain't going to believe this. She said, what? I said, I got the title here. It's got my name on it. It's got my uncle's name on it. And it's got some number in the mileage. It's none number that we've ever even seen before. She said, you're kidding me. I said, no, I'm not. I'm on my way back down there again. She said, come on back down and let's see what we can do. So the third time down, once again, the little huddle of about 5 women came up there, and they said, we can send it back and tell them they made a mistake. I said, she said, they might look at this and say, well, yeah, we made 2 mistakes. We got the wrong mileage, and we accepted a form signed by a power of attorney. And they could say, we ain't giving you a title now with your name on it. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, do I take that chance, or do I just wait to see what happens? And she said, you're probably going to run into an issue if you ever try to sell this car anytime soon, or, give it to a family member and transfer the title to them because, of this issue with the mileage. And she said, well, you can always tell them it just sat in the garage. I said, well, it ain't going to sit in the garage for no like 30,000 miles. I said, I might well just go and drive around town for 2 or 3 days and run the miles up, and then didn't say at least there's more miles on the car now than it says on title. I said, but anybody with any kind of sort of common sense would say, wait a minute, this car was sold with, 38 something on it. And now I'm buying it 5 years later and it's got 38,001 miles. That don't make sense. She said,
Not at
yeah,
all.
you're right. If somebody really pays close attention to that, they could say, and she said, with these new cars, you can't roll back the odometer like you did in the old days.
Yeah, because that's what I was getting ready to say, man, because you could get caught for tampering, and that's fraud.
That's exactly right. That's what I told her. I said, that's a federal offense. I said, I ain't going to jail because they can't get their numbers right,
Right.
So she said, well, you need to decide what you want to do. And like I said, well, let me, go home and think about it. Of course, like I said, I've got my title. She said, I'm going to go ahead and give you a registration card. I got a title with your name on it. I can give you a registration. She gave me registration plates and all that kind of stuff. And I came on home and like I said, I thought about it for a couple of weeks. And one day I say to myself, don't worry about it. You're probably going to have a car for years anyway. And you probably get to that point. And then I said, well, yeah, you get to that point, but you still got to realize that you need quite a few more miles on it than when it was purchased back in 2019, so I'm gonna wait and see, because she said they might take the paperwork back and look at it, and you might not get anything this time. They might say, well, we made another, a double mistake. So I said, well, let me see. But yeah, I mean, you think about it. These are legal binding documents, and somebody ain't paying a whole lot of attention to what they were doing. And so then last week, like I say, is that old saying, no good deed goes undone. Once again, thinking to myself, do the right thing. I was doing his taxes, and this is the first year that he has to file as single because, my aunt passed away, over a year ago now. So this was the first year he had to file as single. And like I say, he's done well. He gets, multiple retirements like we do, military, federal, VA. He's done well with, some of his, a little investment. He got his IRAs and stuff in CDs that have done well over the years. So he's got a sizable income coming in. And his wife never really worked. My aunt never really worked. So, he was able to file jointly with his income primarily being all that he had to file for. Hers was just Social Security after she turned 65. So this year that all changed. And, he's made quite a bit of money, and he's going to have to pay in. So I said, well, we need to see about getting some more income federal withholding taken out. And I saw that on his Social Security, he wasn't getting any taken out. And probably with his wife living, that made sense because, she wasn't counting against him very much. So
right.
I said, okay, so what do I need to do? So I go out on the Social Security website, and they said, to be able to change your federal holding. As a matter of fact, I had done it to mine last year. You had to fill out this form and take it to the Social Security office. I said, okay, no problem. So fill out the form, go out to the Social Security office, and they called me back, and I go in. I said, yeah, I'm the power of attorney for my uncle. I said, he has dementia, and he's in a assisted living home, and he's getting Social Security, but I realized as I was doing his taxes this year that he's not taking any federal withholding on his Social Security. And since his wife passed last year, he's now filing single, and he's having to pay quite a bit in. And I said, we need to get some money taken out of his Social Security. She said, okay. And I got my power of attorney here. And she said, we're a federal entity. We don't take power of attorneys. I said, really? Oh, no, we're a federal agency. We don't take power of attorneys. They're not.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. We can't take a power of attorney. I said, okay. I said, well, what do I need to do then? She said, well, you need to get this form filled out with him saying that, he basically wants to change his withholding on his Social Security. I said, well, ma'am, I just mentioned that he has dementia. I said, I don't really know if he's even in the world. I said, but you want me to go over there and have him sign this form? She said, yeah, he don't have to really sign. He can just make an X. And then you can just witness that you saw him make that X. So I said, you're not taking a legal document power of attorney, but you're going to take my word that I signed that I saw him make an X. And she sort of looked at me like, yeah, that don't make sense. So I'm like, come on now. She said, I understand, but that's what we've got to do. You got to do that. I said, ma'am, I'm not going to do that. I said, I'm not going to take this form over there and have my uncle try to explain to him who, and like I said, he doesn't have a clue what I'm going to be talking about. Have him sign this form. And then something happens down the road and Social Security comes back and say, this is your uncle who has been diagnosed with dementia for the last 3 years, and you had him sign, he was not of sound mind. How can you have him sign a form? I said, I'm not
Exactly.
going to do that. I said, I'm
That's
not
why
going to
you
do that.
got power of attorney.
Attorney, yeah. I
Yeah.
said, I'm not
Yeah.
going to do that. I'm not going to have him sign something when I know he's not of sound mind. She said, well, then what you have to do is you have to take this form, take it to whoever his doctor is that diagnosed them with having dementia. That would make you then and the doctor says on this form that you then are responsible for him and he can't make decisions on his own. And then we would have to make you his representative payee. And to do that, you would have to make sure you have an account with both of your names on it, which I do anyway, but you would have to have an account with both of your names on it. You would come in, we would go over the forms, we would then make you his representative payee, and we would send this to an account with both of your names on it.
Good
But since
Lord.
you're his representative payee, that does mean that if we wanted to audit his account and make sure that you're spending the money for the proper reasons. And I'm sitting here looking at, here again, I'm trying to do the
Yeah.
right thing, and I'm going to have to jump through all these hoops.
Right.
So I called her up. I said, tell me if they're telling me the truth. She said, really, they are. They're, we can't accept power of attorneys because we're a federal agency, she said. But I said, it sort of boggled my
Yeah.
mind that this lady's sitting there telling me either, you could just go over there and have him make an X and sign that you saw him make the X and we're good.
But your power
And I'm
attorney.
saying, but you can't take this power of attorney that's been signed by a lawyer, witnessed and notarized by legal clerks, but you want me to go over and have him make an X and just sign that I saw him make the X.
Man, it pays to know somebody, brother. and the other thing I was going to tell you, because see, I had that, it wasn't that problem, but I told you when I was like defiant, send me my damn money. I ain't having no money taken out till they hit me up these last 2 times. I'm like, hey, where can I get some relief here?
That's what happened to us last year.
Yeah.
That's why I knew about that form. That's the same thing happened to us.
And then what I did though, I was going to do it on the Social Security tip. And once they started talking, I said, okay, all right, thank you. I came home and got on my pay. I take that out of my military retirement. Yeah, I did. I just went into my pay where I could have additional money taken out, and I had them take it out of there. I'm like, I'm not going through all of that. I stopped listening when she said I had to do this, and then you have to. I'm like, okay, all right.
Yeah. Well, I did. I ended up doing all three. Social Security, military retirement, and my civil service retirement. Because, like I say, they hit us big time last year.
Oh yeah. Well, see, mine was already taken care of, but I can go in too on my my second retirement. I can go in there and change it myself too.
Yeah. And, well, that sort of brings us to the third situation.
Boy, you didn't have it rough.
As I say, he's civil service retirement like I am too. So I go out there to OPM, to their website, and I have his OPM case number that you got to have to do anything with civil service matters. I put that in, and I could have swore I had the right password, but I don't know if they reset things. Well, I haven't used his in a couple of years or more now. Of course, put the password in, it didn't work. Try it again, didn't work. So it said, if you having a password problem, you have to call this 1-800.
Oh, here go the other bureaucracy.
Yeah. So I'm saying to myself, okay, I've got to call them up and see about getting his password reset. So I'm saying to myself, do I call him up and say, look, I'm his power of attorney. He's got dementia. He's in an assisted living facility, and I need to see about getting his password reset. And I said, the first thing I thought about was, I can see them saying the same thing. We don't accept powers of attorney. You got to go get him to sign something, blah, 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 blah. So
Just
I
put an
called.
X on it.
I called up that 1-800 number. I was like, yeah, this a retiree. I've been trying to get into my account and it said my password wrong. And I could have swore, I put on the best show you could ever put on. The lady said, well, we get, do you have your social security number? I said, yeah, let me think here. I said, I'm getting old and I gave him the social security number, okay. And your date of birth, sir?
No wonder they had your picture up there on the Oscars.
I said, I put on a show, okay, Mr. Gwynn, all right, we're going to send you a temporary password on your email account. Just take that password and log back in and use that password and it'll get you into the, ma'am, thank you so much. I didn't know what I was going to do. It just kept saying I didn't have the right one. I got it wrote down right here, but it said that wasn't the right one. You're just a very nice person. I think, oh, shit. Sir, that's why we're here to help you. I'm glad I was
Boy.
And I'm like, once again, I could see where if I'd have told them that I was his power of attorney, that they would have made me jump through hoops and probably still wouldn't have got the thing signed. Or like you say, take this form to him and have him sign an X, kind of thing. But I'm like, boy, I tell you, sometimes for us to be wanting to be so private and secure, that kind of thing, sometimes we just don't pass the logic test.
And just listening to you now, that makes me kind of understand why people take the shortcut. Because when you try to do things the right way, boy, you just get sent around the world.
And I just wondered, like with his Social Security. Now, I guess I would have had to do that doctor's form. I guess that's what I would have had to end up doing, was doing the doctor's form and having them sign that and verifying everything. I guess that's what it would have taken to do that. But, just like with me, I knew when I was working for VA, there were certain things like under HIPAA, like you couldn't use a power of attorney to like go in and see your wife's records. HIPAA required you to get what they called an authorization from the person. They have to authorize you to do that, even as a spouse or whatever.
Oh yeah, I had to do it for Ron.
Yeah. They did that. So I knew under, like with the HIPAA laws and things, you couldn't use a power of attorney. But what HIPAA allowed was, if there's a scenario where, just like with me and my uncle, if using, as they say, reasonable evidence that, the person, like, I got a power of attorney, I've got all his documentation here, they can make a professional determination that you sort of pass a test. We believe you, and we'll go ahead and let you do that. They'll even do that with like medical decisions. If nobody's there to make a decision that's in that chain that HIPAA requires, a doctor can make a determination that, yes, we're going to go ahead and say do surgery because we feel that's the ethical thing to do. And there's nobody here legally that can say, yes, go ahead and do it, kind of thing. But yeah, it's just interesting how you sort of go through that kind of stuff and you get a little gun shy, like, well, damn, I don't think I should tell them this. I just go ahead and play the part and let it go from there.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, it gets to be taxing. Just trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Well, I learned something then, man, because I it was a godsend. I've been looking up estate planners and trust people, trying to figure out. There's so many of them, and it's like, well, who do you trust? In this thing. So finally, a week ago, I think it was. Anyway, we were here, stopped and bought a burger, and they put a ton of onions on it, man. I got the most severe indigestion, man, because I usually don't get it. I got it once before eating the raw white onions, and this one had piled on that raw white onion. Anyway, I went to bend over to get the remote to turn the television off, man. I got the sharpest pain in my chest, boy, scared the hell out of me. I was scared to breathe, man.
Damn.
And then I got that proverbial pain in the left arm. I'm like, Rosalind, let's go, and forgot all about 911. But anyway, we got in the car and left, and went up there. But the pain in my shoulder, I got, my shoulder is messed up from being in the military and stuff.
Right.
And but I wasn't associating that because that pain that came across my chest. Anyway, make a long story short, well, it changes a brother's perspective. I've been procrastinating on getting this stuff done and doing all of that. Well, I started researching and trying to decide which one we're going to go to. And lo and behold, I got in the mail today a card for a reservation for a seminar that's right down the street from us about estate planning and all of that good stuff. I said, I'm going to this. I'm going to go check it out. And then I went in there and looked at the firm that was doing it. They seemed to be pretty reputable, and it was one of those. I had a narrow search on my hands because I didn't want nothing way out on the other side. I don't want to be on the opposite side of town having to drive over there for everything. This was right centrally located. I'm like, man, this is a godsend. And checked them out, looked at some of their references, and I'm like, well, it's worth checking out. So we'll go see it. But that power of attorney was one of the main things, because I got to thinking, especially when we didn't make the trip down to Texas, me and Rosin travel together all the time. If something happened to us, it's just out there because everything is geared up. I mean, we have wills and stuff like that, and, but everything is geared with kids were young, and but it's geared to as far as taking care of them, but their power of attorneys and all of that good stuff. We hadn't really dealt with that, and so I'm like, man, I got to get this stuff done. It's just too much possibility of things happening. And like I say, we're traveling together all the time now, and so I'm finna go and get that done. But now I know about getting the power of attorney, man. I'm that'll be some of the questions I can ask about that as far as on the federal side, because if something happened to me, my kids are going to have to deal with that too, as far as the federal thing. And it's just so much,
Yeah, it is. And I had ran into a situation with my uncle before he even, he was still staying at home and his wife was still living and all, but he was starting to have those, mental lapses and things. And I'm trying to think of I don't know if it wasn't Social Security, but we were talking to some agency and it could have even been one of the banks. I don't think it was one of his banking accounts. But anyway, same situation, I think he lost his password. We couldn't get in the account or something of that nature. So we called him up and, once again, I'm James Gwynn. I have him calling from my Uncle Robert Gwynn. Of course, the first thing they asked, well, is he there? I said, yeah, he's sitting right here. I said, but, he has some memory issues and things right now. We're trying to get his account reset or whatever. So she said, well, if he's there, you need to put him on the phone. So I put him on the phone. And so she started, his own speakerphone. So she started asking him questions. I think his date of birth, and he sort of stumbled through that a little bit. And then she asked him about his Social Security number, and he got the first part right. And then when he got to the second two numbers, he got them mixed up. So I said, no, it's 5-2. And woman, sir, you can't coach him. You can't be coaching him. He's got to answer my question for himself. You can't be coaching. And I said, ma'am, the reason we're calling you is because he's having, these mental issues. He can't get into his account or whatever. I said, I'm not coaching him. I said, I just want him to give you the right information. Well, I understand that, sir, but you cannot coach him. I cannot allow you to sit there and coach him. He has to answer these questions, himself. So I said,
that's ridiculous, man.
I said, okay, fine. So she said, sir, tell me your Social Security number. I got a piece of paper, blah, 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 blah. Put it right there in front of him. He said, he read it off to her. Okay, thank you. What is your home address? I had he already had that on a piece of paper. They put that up in front of him. He read that off the piece of paper. I said, sometimes, once again, trying to do the right thing. And I sort of understand the situation where people take advantage of the elderly or people with, I understand. I mean, I wasn't so upset about the fact that she was trying to make sure that, that wasn't what was happening. It was just sort of the tone she was using with me. Like, you're trying to, who know what you're trying to do? You're trying to get in his account and take all his money. And I can't allow you to do that kind of thing. I guess that's what bothered me more than anything. But no. You cannot coach him. I cannot allow you to coach him on answering these questions and stuff. So when it comes to things like that, it's interesting what you can run into. And as I say, on one hand, I understand. I would want to make sure somebody was as sure as possible that this wasn't a fraudulent situation if it was my money or my family member or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah, sometimes the bureaucracy can just not make a whole lot of sense. But now that I think about it, that customer service person didn't ask me if I actually was my uncle. She just asked me for information. So I guess in reality, I wasn't perpetrating a fraud. Well, we hope you enjoyed this edition of Old Fools Talking Old School. Join us next time. Till then, this is Mickey G. Peace.